Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with co-host Jeff Meyer, and Matty B should be calling in soon. We didn't want to go too late, but he'll be getting on. Hopefully, we can get a hold of him. They're having some issues. But before we get into high tempo, I wanted to say we've been teasing some extra stuff coming out for the show, and we were on our way with Facebook, but I guess we've been flagged as controversial. So I don't know what that means. But if you have any ideas, please shoot us a message. We'd love to talk about it. But let's get into high tempo. Jeff, what do you got this week?
So the thing I got for the week is Pitt basketball finally being relevant again. Jeff Chappell getting the team together. They just knocked off number 11 Florida State 75-62. So that's a big win for Pitt basketball, considering what they were the last 2 years under Kevin Stallings. So big things for Pitt. Hopefully they start turning around, being relevant in the ACC. So if Pitt could be relevant, I mean, the ACC is tough, especially with UNC and Duke and everyone. So I'm excited to see what's going forward with Pitt basketball. That's my high tempo for the week. Pitt being relevant in basketball for the first time in a couple years.
All right, looks like Matt's on. Matt, we are live. So
hey, what's going on, guys?
Just doing some high tempo. You got anything for us this week?
Yeah, I was surprised Notre Dame transfer Brandon Wimbush grad transferred over to UCF. So Mackenzie Milton had his injury, and I think for as bad as that is, that could be a career ender. They have him out, and they replace him with a potential high quality quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up whenever we get into our football talk. Brandon Wimbush, he's not a bad quarterback by any means. I know he's had issues with accuracy, but this is a great get for UCF. If they want to stay relevant and they want to keep having undefeated seasons, you've got to have a dynamic quarterback. The Mackenzie Milton injury is awful. So them bringing in Wimbush is a great way for them to extend possibly their run beyond what Utah a decade ago and Boise State were able to do. Eventually those dropped off. There have been actually some rumors, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there were some rumors that some of the ADs were talking to the Big 12 about possibly adding UCF, not now with the current TV deal, but whenever theirs is up, and I want to say that's like 2025. So for that to happen, UCF has to stay relevant for another 6 years. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get that done. If you remember, Boise State was relevant, and then they dropped off. Pac-12 eventually picked up Utah, and they were able to lure Colorado, and then that ended any chance of Boise State getting that bump up to the next level. So I'm hoping UCF pulls it out because I know you're going to hate to hear this, Matt, but another big program in Florida just dilutes that talent pool even bigger. So helps those teams up north. So I'm all for it. But for my Steel City update, we're going to talk about the Virginia basketball game, so some more ACC. So a lot of people, I live down here in Raleigh, and the ACC has a deal with Raycom. A lot of people knock the Big Ten network and how you can't watch it. The game right now it's on, I think, between Virginia and Virginia Tech isn't on national television. The only way you can watch it is if you have an ESPN app to watch their streaming thing. And I don't think you have to have cable. I think you could pay for ESPN Plus. But this is a top matchup between I think they're both top 15 programs. I think they are both undefeated in the ACC right now. And it's not on television. To me, this is outrageous. So a lot of people can make fun of these other networks, and I see a lot of people making fun of the Pac-12 network because they're looking for outside investors. I don't care if it's not on regular television. Let me watch the games on Twitter if you're the Pac-12. Put it on Facebook. Put it somewhere. Make it easy for me to watch it. If you can't watch a top matchup in your conference of undefeated teams in January, it's a big no-no. So we'll see if the ACC network fixes that up, because until that gets fixed, it really hurts a team like Pitt, because you're not going to be on regional television if you're forced to be on a network that not everyone has, like Raycom. So, something to keep an eye on. Go ahead,
Just to
Jeff.
chime in on that, Virginia's number 4 in the country right now, 15-0. Virginia Tech's 9 in the country, 14-1. And Virginia's winning 55-39 of Virginia Tech, 12 minutes in the second.
Yeah, crazy. It's not as close a game as I would have hoped, but it's amazing that I think the actual game that they picked over them was Kentucky, Georgia. So it's not like they picked another great basketball school. It's not like they picked Duke, UNC, or like Kansas versus some other school. They picked Kentucky, Georgia. So that's crazy to me. Let's go ahead and actually, there's one other thing since we're talking about television stuff. If you love football, before we get here into the Steelers, do not forget that the AAF, I can't remember what it stands for. It's like American Association of Football or something like that, kicks off February 9th. So this is a new league. And I think the first game is going to be on CBS. I think it's an 8-team league. And what they did is they have all 8 teams in the South from like Orlando across the country to San Diego. And if you're in one of the Southern schools, so like all of the Florida schools, Miami, Florida State, University of Florida, UCF, their players have to play on the Orlando team. If you're from Texas, you'd have to play on that local team. So any team, any college in the South, all your players that maybe didn't make it in the NFL can get a second chance in this league now. It's brand new. There are no kickoffs. Everything starts from the 25, I believe. If you want to go for it, like an onside kick, since there's no kickoffs, they let you have one play, and it's either 1st and 10, 12, or 15. I don't know what they sided on, because I think it was 1st and 10 from your own 35, where if you didn't get it, the other team took over on your 35. Or I think they kind of expanded it after doing some tests. So I don't know what it actually settled on. It could be 12, could be 15. Maybe they stuck with 10. I don't know. But if you're in the mood for some football after the Super Bowl, check it out. We'll be talking about it some more. I know we were excited for the XFL, but I didn't want to forget to talk about it. The AAF, American Association of Football. I could be wrong on that name. But unfortunately, there's no team. There's no team close to Pittsburgh. So kids from the North, they can sign with any team. So like Atlanta signed Denard Robinson from Michigan, if you remember. He played in the NFL as a running back for a while. He's a dynamic quarterback for them. He's getting a second chance in this league. It's going to be players like that. A bunch of players from Penn State can sign with any team. And you're going to see players, and I think this really helps undersized quarterbacks. Quarterbacks that might not have made it or hung around in the NFL, you're now going to see second life. So I can't wait to see what kind of offenses they run. Matt, you said you love it?
Yes.
You think it's going to be better?
Give it another shot.
You think it's going to be better than the XFL?
I don't know if it's going to be better. I mean, define better. Because I think one thing, if we're looking from a pure entertainment standpoint, the XFL and Vince McMahon had the blueprint, the template of, I guess, the advantage of what went wrong with the first time that they ran with the XFL. So they have all their stuff to see where they can correct the issues they had with the with the Alliance League. I don't know. I mean, you could count the USFL as part of that with the NFL, but the NFL really doesn't have anything to kind of go off of with starting this league out. So I think there is going to be more of a learning curve with them than with the XFL.
Well, I don't think it's associated with the NFL, is it? I honestly think it was started by the guy who did a 30 for 30. Like, it was started by a filmmaker, and I want to say, Pittsburgh fans, there's a lot of Steelers involved. I think Hines Ward is one of the guys, and a couple other former Steelers and other former players. They're putting this league together to promote like safety. They're not taking any liability for player issues. I've read that what they're going to do is outsource all of their concussion protocols and any injuries to learning facilities which I think is a great idea. It could just be a PR stunt. But yeah, it's going to help the NFL if they're able to get noticeable measurements from games and they're open about it. I'm just worried that it's going to be another dumbed-down league where the XFL went over the top to be exciting, and I want to be entertained if I'm watching spring football. And by successful or whatever I said earlier, I can't remember how I phrased it, I just want it to be on television. Right now it's going to be on CBS, I believe, and I think they have a stake in it. If the first game doesn't get ratings and they cut it, and the rest of the games are streamed on like that $5 you have to pay per month CBS app, to me that's a failure. They have to put it out there where you can watch it for free, and it has to be entertaining. I don't think there's field goals. I don't think kickers are involved at all. So unfortunately, if your favorite player was a kicker, they will not be getting a second chance here. So, Jeff, why are you laughing? Some people love kickers. What about Sebastian Janikowski?
Number 1 pick by the Raiders.
Yeah, Matt's a big fan. That might be his favorite Seminole.
He partied like a rock star and won a national championship.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting. I don't want to spend any more time on it, but I definitely want to talk about it because we'd spent a whole part of a show before on XFL. So let's keep with football, get into the Steelers. Right now, it's the big topic. Everyone's talking about it. They're open. Now, Matt, they're open to trading Antonio Brown. I don't know why you're making fun, because I think it could be the right move.
Yeah, I'm just opening up. If we're going to the circus, I at least want some good music.
Well, what do you say? Name one receiver that Ben Roethlisberger has lost that really hurt the team. I'm not buying it that he's irreplaceable. I already trust Juju. Maybe Washington takes a step. I really think they like. Is it Shazier or who's there? Not Shazier. Jeez, Switzer. Their other wide receiver they brought in from UNC. They really like him out of the slot, kind of using him in that Antoine Randall L role, where he can kind of do a little bit of everything: returning punts, returning kicks. Smart player out there. Filling that void that they really haven't had. If you remember that one Super Bowl, didn't Antoine Randall L, did he throw a touchdown or was that Hines Ward?
He threw it to Hines.
Yeah, they're running trick plays. They haven't had that. They haven't had anyone that gave them versatility, and that's what they relied on with Hines Ward, Randall L. And I think cutting Brown opens up some more of that stuff where they were too predictable this year. They lost Bell. And their passing game, a lot of times, Ben was just forcing the ball to Brown. If you get rid of Brown, he's not forcing the ball anymore. So open it up, I say. I do like their stance, and then I'll let you guys give some analysis on it. But their stance is they're not cutting him. So you either have to trade for him, or basically he would have to sit out. I don't know if he's up for contract. I don't think he's up for contract, which is why they're not going to cut him. So... what do you think, Matt? Since you think it's a circus, you can start.
Well, as of right now, the Steelers, I just saw this today, have $18.25 million in salary cap room, so it's the sixth most in the NFL. And come March, if you get rid of Antonio Brown, you got an extra $1.045 million to it. So there's a lot of extra money at stake, and I think that Pittsburgh right now is at a crossroads. The biggest loss is losing Munchak to a lateral move to Denver, because he took some of the inconsistencies that Pittsburgh had over the last couple of years, and he really solidified the offensive line. And I think he's the reason that Roethlisberger hasn't taken as many sacks and has been able to stay healthy. I think he's the reason that Le'Veon Bell was shown to be expendable, and I think that hurts more than losing Bell or losing Brown. Another article I read today that I really liked was from, of all teams, the Indianapolis Colts. And their GM came out and just spoke outright and said he doesn't want players like Bell and Brown on their team, because he talked about the culture of the locker room and guys like Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne and guys that were good locker room guys, Vinatieri on and off the field, that those are the guys that you need.
Yeah, guys like Marvin Harrison that were killing people in his own car wash. High character guys like that, Matt.
High character. Hall of Famers with Super Bowl rings.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but Matt brought a great point up with Munchak. If you look at that offensive line, some of the core players from like 2000, I'd want to say like 2012 to 14, Ben was taking a lot of sacks. And I think Munchak did a great job, especially the Castro. If you watched him when he started with the Steelers, I thought he was going to be a bust on the offensive line. And he got coached up, obviously got some more experience, grew a little bit as a player, but that offensive line was solid the last 2 years, kept Ben upright. So I think that's a huge loss. And if you have a guy like Munchak who, this is me just speculating, he seemed very loyal to the Steelers. So is this one of those moves where he's like, I'm just getting out of town because I don't see, you know what I mean? It's like, is this like indicating what this, upcoming season is going to be? If he's getting out of town, he thinks bad things are happening. I mean, the Antonio Brown stuff's just a circus. And as far as him being traded, I think it's really a bad look. I don't know if you guys saw, Bruce Arians came out and made a comment about it, basically saying no one will ever doubt Antonio Brown's commitment when he's on the field, his work ethic to prepare, himself for the games. But he brought up the critical point, his off the field issues. There was a lot, I feel like, this year that kind of got swept under the rug with Antonio Brown. He had some kind of incident, and I want to say like last March or April. He was at a vacation spot, and there was some kind of ruckus that happened where he was throwing chairs off the balcony. That one really got hidden well by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's one of the best, no doubt, on the field, but it's coming to a point at 30 years old, his off-the-field shenanigans might not be worth it anymore, and his locker room presence, when you're throwing a ball, a grown man throwing a ball at your quarterback over – I don't know if it was over Juju Smith-Schuster or what was, being named the MVP of the team or whatever. It's just not good. One thing we were talking before it started tonight, the whole Jerry Rice thing. He had a long, in-depth conversation with Jerry Rice. I don't know if it was early or late last week, but basically he went out and told Jerry Rice, "I want to be a 49er, make it happen," kind of thing. So I don't know if that will happen. I don't know if Jerry Rice can pull enough strings with the 49ers that a trade could possibly happen. I mentioned that last week. I thought it might be a place with Jimmy G. Might be a good fit, but I don't know what's going to happen. But I think it's time for the Steelers maybe to move on from Antonio Brown.
I hope he moves to the 49ers because the 49ers aren't going to be relevant for years to come until their owner steps back or they make some moves that are going to put them in that position. So Antonio Brown going out to see Jerry Rice is laughable because Jerry Rice, he left the 49ers. He went to the Raiders.
Yep.
Because he was upset about them for something. People don't forget that, or I guess people do forget that. And now he's like a 49ers legend because he played there for so long. He could have stayed there and ended his career. But instead he went to the Raiders, tried to chase another ring, came very close until our boy Gruden put an end to that.
Almost got it if it wasn't for Gruden.
I know, Gruden, he's great. So, I mean, luckily Gruden stopped that. But now he's back in good graces with the 49ers, and the 49ers have their own issues. They have locker room problems. They did what Matt brought up that the Colts aren't going to do. 49ers shifted to a players first culture once they kicked out Harbaugh or let him go. Now they're players first. They haven't won the locker room back, I don't think. That's why they can get pushed high in preseason game predictions like, people, they might win 9-10 games this year. But once the season starts, if you don't have control, you're not going to be able to make those adjustments. Players, they lose a few games, they start to get that me attitude, and you're not going to have it. That's what I don't want to happen with the Steelers. If you have those guys in the locker room and Ben's somehow able to get them wins, then get rid of them. If Ben can win with him, at this point, he can kind of win with anyone. He's sort of like a poor man's Tom Brady to the point where the Steelers, instead of trying to win with Ben, have been giving him weapons almost like a bizarro Tom Brady. It would be like if the Patriots were just cutting guys that bring in high-profile guys, thinking that a worse roster, but with more high-profile guys they can market and sell jerseys to, would get them to wins. when I really think, because Ben came in, 2 years after Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl, or a year or two after? Like, if the Steelers would have just kept what they had early on with the Bettis years and the Hines Ward years, a team-first team, everyone had a key part that they played, and they made that shift under Tomlin where it was flashy guys. Got to have the flashy guys out there. It doesn't matter who's out there. Mike Wallace putting up big numbers, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. It just doesn't work. I mean, can you guys name a team that won the Super Bowl just having flashy players like that?
The only team, maybe the Rams, the greatest show on turf, but other than that, I don't think anyone.
Yeah, that was 15 years ago?
99, yeah. Right? Kurt Warner?
You can backtrack it to the Raiders of the 70s, the mid-70s.
Not like 50 years ago?
I can't, but this is to the point. Those Raider teams stood out because they were crazy, but they were also focused on the team aspect of winning games, and they were willing to stay after practice and doing the things. There's actually a really good book if you're a reader that's called Badasses, and it's about those Raider teams that talk about how they had this reputation of just like being unruly, but really it was the extra time and the extra stuff that they were willing to put in. It wasn't about the stats. And when you look, the thing that I think irritates a lot of people is during post-game interviews, when on the games like, was it the Raiders, that they lose and he has all the stats and touchdowns. He has his kids up there and he's smiling and he's excited, but beat New England and have like 4 catches and 50 yards and you're pouting like you lost the game. When you have that selfish mindset, you're not going to win. You need to have the team culture. And if you don't have that from the players buying in and breeding that amongst themselves and holding each other accountable as an organization, whether it's a football team, a school, a business, it's not going to be successful if the people on the ground level don't buy in.
I'll even add to your point. I didn't know you were going to take it in that direction. That's why I was harsh on you. But if you're going back, look at the Dolphins, that undefeated team. They still get together. I guess the ones that are still alive. And they celebrate every time the last undefeated team loses. You think if those were a bunch of selfish me-first players that they would do that? Like, no, there's camaraderie there. You can slay the Giants with that have the best players on their team, but you have to play as a team. You can have the best running back, you can have the best quarterback, but if you can't put together an entire team, it's just not going to work. Look at, like what I said, all the teams with the highest paid quarterbacks, they didn't even make the playoffs. Like the top 6 highest paid quarterbacks, those are the stars of the league. They can't get it done. So you almost have to have that team aspect. Anything you guys want to add on the Steelers before we move on?
Talking about like the team aspect. The one team that growing up watching that I loved more than anything was the 08-09 Steelers. If you look at that defense, what was it? Casey Hampton up front, Kiesel, I think Aaron Smith might have been still there, Woodley, Harrison, Ferrier. Who's the other one? There's another linebacker, but then you had Paul Malou, Ryan Clark, Ike Taylor, was it Townsend? Like that defense there, they still get, like you talking about getting together. If you see on Instagram and different things, like that core group still goes like hunting every year together. So talking about the team, now you have Antonio Brown driving, I can't remember where he was doing it this year, driving 100 miles per hour like the day before a game by himself. I don't know what and how in God's name you would do that, but it's just not a team right now for the Steelers. So maybe get rid of the diva, bring in some more defensive players because the defense needs help. Thinking back to that great Steelers defense when you had James Harrison win the MVP right after. I think Paul Mullen might have won it the year before, year after, somewhere around that time. So they need to get the defense back and then let Ben be Ben.
Yeah, it's going to be something that has to be changed at the top. It does scare me that they wouldn't pay Munchak more to stay unless he wanted out because of the culture. I don't know. And I don't think we would ever find that out.
Well, there's reports that he has family out there and it was family based. But as a coach, I think the only reason that you leave because with Pittsburgh, he has a sure thing. The only reason you jump for a lateral job is if you kind of either feel slighted or unappreciated, and you're willing to move forward to greener pastures. Is the only way that I see. I could see him leaving if they were offering him coordinator duties or some kind of other title or feather in his cap that down the road he could use. But to leave it for a lateral job, I don't know that's enough, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll see in the coming weeks if anything else comes out on that. But we're going to move on into the Penguins. I put out on Twitter, there were two things I put out. I'm starting to do it before the show. I told the guys before we went live, because normally I say things on the show, then I forget. And then I try to find it in the show, and I was like, I knew I said I was going to tweet something out, and I can never find it. So I'm just going to compile my notes beforehand. But at first one, Penguins played at LA Kings, and our man Snoop Dogg, he commentated on the game, and he's a Steelers fan, and he's a Penguins fan. So the Kings let him come in. Of course, he was wearing Kings gear, but I know deep down he still likes Pittsburgh teams. But I thought that was pretty cool that they would add him. I know he did the All-Star game like 2017 or something, but hockey must be trying to get him to get into youth hockey in LA because he does a lot of youth football stuff. So it would make sense for them to expand. LA has a lot of kids and a lot of private schools that would have that money. They have a lot of private schools that produce quarterbacks for USC and other colleges. So you have an untapped market in terms of hockey, and you have a team that won a couple Stanley Cups. So good to see that they're not just sticking with what people perceive to be the demographic that watches hockey. They're trying to expand, because that's one of my knocks on the NHL is they for too long they've done the safe thing. So by letting this come out, get some celebrities in, you can show that instead of just sticking with like the country music stars. Like expand, try to get some new fans, and then hopefully you'll be on TV more. But the other thing I put out was the Penguins have the toughest remaining schedule. The numbers are in the article, and they're slipped my mind, but they were top 5, I think, for January, February, and March. Good news for us. Penguins normally play, just like the Steelers, to the level of competition. And I'm tired of losing to bad teams. So maybe they can put it together, help them get a run for the playoffs. But we'll go around here. Matt, you have anything you want to add about the Penguins?
No, just want to see them just to keep getting better, being more consistent. That's all.
There are rumors that they're looking to trade one of their goalies, backup goalies. And I can't remember which one it was. Because I think they just signed one. Man, I should have wrote it down. But to me, that's scary. That's like trading, and the Eagles are doing this with Nick Foles. You have some backup goalies that were playing well with Matt Murray out, and we don't know how durable Matt Murray is going to be in the playoffs. But to me, just due to that factor, I would feel more comfortable having that third goalie. But that's something to keep an eye on if they are going to make a move there. But Jeff, you have anything you want to add? What, Matt? Jeff, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just to add to the Penguins. They're sitting third right now in the Metropolitan, 3 points behind Columbus. They were last week. They were at number 2. They're sitting at third with points. They're playing the Sharks tonight, which is going to be a good game. They really need to win this one because the Islanders are sitting just 2 points behind the Pens. So the Pens don't take care of business here, especially with this tough schedule upcoming. They could possibly fall to 4 in the next week or two. So they really need to step it up, considering it's becoming crunch time. So hopefully they can take care of business tonight and get some momentum going forward.
Yeah, this is when I was hoping they would turn it on, but unfortunately, it lines up with the toughest schedule, and that's based on records this year. And I think was it TSN, the Canadian station that does the teams from Canada. They graded wins and losses by home ice advantage. But if you go to our Twitter, S-Bound Sports, you'll see the link that I put up if you want to read further on it. But that's what it comes down to. Got to have team playing consistent, it's good to have them get ramped up playing tougher competition. It only gets you ready for the playoffs, but you have to make it. So let's see. I don't care too much about winning the Metropolitan. Just make the playoffs. Speaking of playoffs, let's get into NFL. Jeff, last week, I noticed did you pick against my man Tom Brady?
I did. Oh man, I'm foolish.
How did that turn out for you?
That was a game that I did not enjoy watching. Obviously, I'm a big New England hater. Even though Tom Brady is, Michigan guy, I hate New England. It started, Patriots got up early and never let the foot off the gas. The one thing, Matt, being a coach, I don't understand, especially the NFL level. Chargers came out playing 7 DBs, a lot of zone coverage like they've done all year. It clearly wasn't working. I don't know why it's such a big secret Tom Brady rips up zone coverages. And especially the one thing I thought was interesting too, the Patriots are coming out using a fullback, running ISO plays, stuff that we saw very common 10 years ago, but the last couple of years it's more of a pass-happy, spread-orientated offense. Why did they not make adjustments at halftime? They were down. It's the playoffs this year, your last chance. Why would you not come out and make some adjustments in the second half?
Maybe you couldn't. I mean, I couldn't speak for the Chargers. I was surprised at how bad of an ass whooping they took. I was hoping that they were going to put forth a better showing, but I don't know. I mean, the common blueprint is to play man-to-man and blitz Brady and hope you get to him or to get hits on him. When teams are able to do that seems to be the formula for them to be successful. One of the things that I don't understand with the NFL is that just like with the RPOs on offense that are so popular, it seems like they play such simple coverages. A lot of it's base cover 3, base cover 2, and they really aren't doing too much crazy stuff like you're seeing. For as much as the Big 12 gets knocked for it, they're the ones that have to face those spread offenses. So I think they have the answers. It's just playing in space is so tough. And when you have an offense like Brady's that he does, flip-flop coordinators, it's still Brady that is calling his shots. He's seeing these same stale defenses from these same recycled coordinators over and over, and just pretty much has an idea of what he can do to pick them apart. And hats off to New England for going back to some of those, 2-back personnel sets and just running it down where the Chargers didn't have the physical presence to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how many coaches Brady has actually gone against, or at least defensive coordinators, if he's been playing mostly the same set of guys for his entire career. You could be onto something, Matt. And to your point, Jeff, once you get punched in the mouth, like you said, they went 7 DBs, they went small, they got punched in the mouth. At that point, your D line's beat up. So it doesn't matter if you stack the box at that point, you're not going to get any penetration. It's too late. So they could make as much adjustments as they needed in the second half, but your D line just got beat up because you didn't give them any help in the first place. And that's why I always liked the Steelers' defensive approach, because you always blitzed and got your D line help early, rotate some guys in, and then they could stay fresh.
Yeah.
When you don't do that, the roster size just isn't big enough where you can just switch out entire D lines. And at that point, Tom Brady's confident. He's just like a hot hand. He's able to do whatever he wants. So, I mean, we get the matchup that I think a lot of people have wanted all year, Tom Brady versus the hot Kansas City Chiefs. So, Chiefs, I'm not high on them just because of Andy Reid. I wouldn't have been surprised if they lost that game, but I mean, this is a big matchup. We'll stick with this one. What do you guys' thoughts on the Chiefs? We'll start with you, Matt.
Again, another game where I thought they were going to be in trouble. The weather conditions were playing to the Colts' favor, and I was surprised that Kansas City took them to the chipper. They did a lot of the things that all year they've been doing as far as motions and moving people around and doing different things, and they made Indianapolis look foolish. And before they had a chance to really adjust and get going, they had enough of a lead that they could cruise. I was actually surprised more so that the Colts offense generated nothing. For as much ground and pound as they were, their defense kept them in the game relatively close, but the offense just couldn't get it going.
Yeah, Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I figured going into the game with the snow and Arrowhead that I'd favor the Colts. I thought the Colts were going to be able to run the ball, get ahead of the sticks, and have success on offense with Andrew Luck. That wasn't the case at all. The Chiefs, who didn't have a defense all season, somehow figured it out in the game against the Colts. They played well. They were playing in the advantage because the Colts were playing behind the sticks. Their run game wasn't working, so Andrew Luck had a lot of third and longs, and then the Chiefs brought pressure and they got to Luck a few times. So that was a big factor in the games. I knew Mahomes and the offense for the Chiefs was going to do well. I just didn't think the Chiefs' defense was going to play that well against the Colts. And hats off to the D coordinator and the defense because they showed up and showed out, shut the Colts down, and now the Chiefs get a little rematch now against the Patriots. Early in the season, they lost, I believe, at Arrowhead, 43-40, somewhere in that ballpark. So we might see another shootout this weekend, which hopefully it's an exciting game. The AFC games were not fun at all to watch, so I'm hoping this game will be much better this weekend.
Well, I think that Tom Brady showing was a blast to watch, Jeff. So I guess we'll just have to disagree. But let's do a couple quick hitters here. First, normally once you reach a certain age, it's tough to win your first Super Bowl. Like the last older quarterback that I can remember, was what? John Elway, maybe. Kurt Warner won it young and he wasn't able to win it again. Ben Roethlisberger most likely is not going to win it again. Do you think Andrew Luck is going to win a Super Bowl? Matt, we'll start with you.
Maybe. I don't know. They got good locker room chemistry. If they could get a couple more pieces to that puzzle, maybe they have a shot to it. I don't know 100%. I think they're growing, but I think they're going to need to show a little bit more consistency before I'll say yay to that.
Well, don't you think he gets a lot of hype that he has to show it at some point?
Well, he has, but with all the injuries that he's had, I think I'd have less of a knock on him than I do Phillip Rivers, because Phillip Rivers has no excuse as to why he hasn't gotten it done. The personnel's been there, the opportunities have been there, and he just flounders in these big games where I think with Luck it's been more the times that he was healthy pre the 1,000 shoulder injuries was he played well. They performed well, and now you're just seeing what percentage is he of himself.
Oh, so, I agree. Rivers, I mean, there's no reason he couldn't have made adjustments and turned that game against the Patriots into a shootout. They didn't open things up until the fourth quarter. That game was nowhere close to what that score ended up being. So I agree to your point, but we'll see. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I think I have to disagree a little bit, especially with Phillip Rivers. Obviously, didn't get it done in this game. You guys were clearly right about that, but I feel like the last couple years he didn't have a defense. The coaching situation there was never stable. I feel like his best chance of having a Super Bowl run was the last time he lost to Tom Brady in the playoffs when he had LT and a pretty good team, but he had the torn ACL in that game. LT wasn't 100%. So I mean, it's kind of rough with Phillip Rivers. I feel like some of his best days are obviously at his age now are behind him. Obviously that team's getting much better, so who knows? But I feel like with Andrew Luck, I feel like he's going to win a Super Bowl. He has enough talent to do it. We'll see if they surround him with enough talent to do it. But I don't know, when you think about great quarterbacks, Drew Brees won one after a shoulder surgery. So I feel like with today's medicine today, I don't think the shoulder injury is as bad considering how well he played this year. He's still relatively young. I think he'll do it. I think he has the talent to do it. So only time will tell, of course. But
I'm going to say no. At some point you have to take that next step. You can't tell me Nick Foles can lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl with their playoff history and a team that, isn't highly regarded as a stacked team. You as a quarterback, you have to make those plays and take that next step. And at this point, he hasn't shown it to me. I know he's been injured. Maybe that pushes him back. But I know, Jeff, Pitt guy, Dan Marino never won one. So I know you're a little sympathetic towards Andrew Luck. So I get it.
Yeah, hey, I am sympathetic, but you're talking about that next step. Did Trent Dilfer ever make that next step? Did Joe Flacco make that next step? You have people who go out, win a Super Bowl, and never heard of again. Unless Drew Brees wins one this year, he's one and done. What's going on with Aaron Rodgers? He's one and done. I have such a problem with Aaron Rodgers. He's such a high-profile, best quarterback in the league, but he had to sit behind Brett Favre for 4 years. He finally gets his opportunity, wins one, and where's he been since?
Well,
a couple playoff wins here or there.
Give a full disclaimer. You love Brett Favre.
Oh, huge Brett Favre fan, especially growing up. So I'm very, very biased with the Packers.
All right, my next question. Well, first, Rick David, he's listening. He said no. He doesn't think that Andrew Luck will win one. Our next quick run before we get into the NFC. Who do you think will win next week? Patriots or Chiefs? Matt?
I'm going with the Chefs.
Even with Andy Reid?
If I can win my fantasy league, Andy Reid can win the division. He can do it.
Jeff, what about you?
This is against my better judgment, but I'm going Chiefs. The Chiefs are hot. The way they played defense last week, I think they can do just enough on defense, and I feel the Chiefs are going to score points. So I think they got a good shot. I'm going to take the Chiefs this week. And I know I do it time and time again, go against Tom Brady, so I'll probably be proven wrong again, but I'm going Chiefs.
I'm going my man Tom Brady and the Patriots. They're going to go to another Super Bowl. After he wins it this year, the NFL is going to be really slighted towards him, and they're going to start doing negative press things. There'll be another Deflategate controversy, and they'll try to bring him down. But you can't bring the king down. Can't bring him down. So let's get into the NFC games. Nick Foles, my man, I predicted the Eagles would win, and Nick Foles did not lose that game. If you watch a game, Saints missed a field goal to put it out of reach with 2 minutes left or something. Nick Foles has them marching down. They're at the Saints 30 or 20. They need a touchdown to win. There's a minute something left. Almost 2 minutes. He throws a perfect pass to Alshon Jeffrey. Right through his hands. Right through his hands. And it's intercepted. And the Saints win. And then after the game, Eagles ownership comes out and they're like, we're going to stick with Carson Wentz. We hope Nick Foles stays on as backup. But the Eagles would never be there without Foles. He has a better record than Wentz. If you look at his career record, his playoff record is almost impeccable. I think he's 4-2 or 4-1. Maybe more than that. I don't know if they updated it for this year. It's unbelievable. So if I'm a team, let's say if the Steelers, if Ben Roethlisberger decided to retire, I would love it if the Steelers made a run at him. Because I think that's a winner. That's something that I don't see in Andrew Luck. And I don't care how talented your team is. You have to have a quarterback that's able to rally the team and make those moves. So I would love it if and I know the Browns have Baker Mayfield, but I would love it if a lovable loser picked him up and was able to give them a shot. Matt, you're shaking your head no. Why not?
I'm going to say no because I think, just like the knock with Big 12 quarterbacks, I think Foles is a product of Peterson's system. And I think when Wentz went down, the year they won when they won the Super Bowl, there was enough time where they tailored the stuff that Peterson wanted to do with the offense to what Foles could do. So the offense almost evolved with Nick Foles. And I think if you take him out of that and you plug him in with another team, I don't know that you're going to get the same level of production or success with that. I think it's kind of a custom-made thing in Philadelphia with him. And when you move him out of there, I don't see the production that he's going to get like you would with other people.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's kind of tough on this one. I was never a huge fan of Nick Foles, but last 2 years he's proved me wrong. He did enough to win that game against the Saints. Uncharacteristic drop by Alshon Jeffrey sealed the deal. But other than that, he played great. They're up 14. They had every opportunity to win that game. I don't think it's Nick Foles. I never really thought about it before. Matt made a good point. Maybe he is a system quarterback. I'm not sure. Only time would tell with that one if he goes somewhere else and does well or does poorly. But if I'm another team, I believe Nick Foles is still relatively young. Why not go out and get him? He's proven he's a champion. He played well this year in the playoffs. He's proven me wrong time and time again. I did not think he was going to play well in the playoffs this year. And every time he steps up, he plays well. I mean, he's the only reason they made the playoffs. I don't think they'd make the playoffs with Carson Wentz, to be honest. I'm a Carson Wentz fan, but I don't think they'd do it. And they definitely don't win the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz. So maybe he'll have another shot somewhere else. But Nick Foles played great this postseason. It wasn't on him. That was on the team. The team let him down on that one.
Yeah, I will have to just disagree. I don't think he's a system quarterback. I think he's won enough with multiple teams, and I don't know if all those wins came at the same time, but he also played with, Arizona, that he's taken that next step now as a leader. He's gotten older, won his first Super Bowl. Take the next step. If I'm a team like Tampa Bay, where they're having issues with Jameis Winston, why not take a run at him? Try to trade the pieces you have. Or what about the Giants? Could you imagine him taking over for a weak-armed Eli Manning, able to work with Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley? I mean, a guy that's able to make throws, be risky, similar to a younger Eli Manning. It could work out. So we'll see. The other game, Cowboys, I was high on them, but they weren't able to get it done against the Rams. I was actually surprised. I kind of picked the Cowboys. I think I picked the Cowboys, but I did it as like a joke because the Rams should have actually killed them. But they really didn't. So now I don't know what to think in the NFC. I think it's very clear that Tom Brady has a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. I mean, a lot of these teams have inflated regular season records. Matt, I know you're falling asleep over there, but prove me wrong. Between the Rams and Saints, who would give them the best challenge, and who do you think wins this weekend?
I think either one of those teams is better. To be honest, I think the NFC wins it, regardless of if New England happens to beat the Chiefs. I think it's whoever the NFC. I'll go with whoever the NFC team is in the Super Bowl.
Well, what's your pick for this week? I don't care about the Super Bowl.
I went with the Chefs, and I'm going to go with who do I want to go with? I'll go with the Rams.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on the NFC?
I'm going Rams as well. I'm a big Todd Gurley fan. I think Jared Goff has done well this year. I think he's the one who's going to take the next step and put them into the Super Bowl. I love Drew Brees and the Saints, but the Rams are tough. I mean, they got a pass rush. They played just enough. They played just well enough in the coverage on defense, and they clearly got a high-powered offense. I think they can beat the Saints. Now, I don't think the Patriots can beat the Saints or the Rams, but I think the Chiefs would have a chance with their high-powered offense to beat the Rams or the Saints. I don't know. I'm just not high on the Patriots with the remaining teams. I think there's too much offensive firepower. And hey, Bill Belichick might do it again. He's done it throughout, the last 15 years. He's put a game plan together and completely shocked. I mean, he shocked the Chargers. His game plan was perfect against them. So maybe he comes out, looks at the previous film against the Chiefs, puts a game plan together. But if we're just talking NFC, I'm taking the Rams against the Saints.
Yeah. In the NFC, I'm not high on the Saints because it's hit or miss. They honestly could have lost to the Eagles, and most likely they should have. Alshon Jeffrey, I think he was 2nd and 10. When he dropped that pass, he was very close to the first down. If not, it's a 3rd and short with enough time for them to score a touchdown. And the Saints weren't doing anything to stop them. Saints have come so close with Drew Brees, besides that one Super Bowl run after the hurricane when they're putting out hits on other players from other teams. I mean, they haven't done enough to get over that hump. Yeah, sure, Drew Brees is a regular season hero, like Phillip Rivers, but that's the only thing that separates them is that one Super Bowl win. So at this point, I don't know if they can get it done. The only thing with the Rams is the quarterback position. I'm not sold on Goff. I think they could win this game just on the strength of their team. And that's why I would think that if they played Tom Brady would be able to take advantage of that because you have the high pressure of a Super Bowl with a young quarterback. It's hard to overcome that for your first one. So,
hey, you guys know, though, one thing that takes the pressure off the quarterback's a run game. And you saw that C.J. Anderson somehow, I don't know, he somehow resurrected his career in the last, 2 weeks of the regular season. He looked phenomenal against the Cowboys. And that's a great thing for the Rams right now. Him playing so well. Gurley got, limited touches, was able to hopefully get more healthy, plays, again this week. If the Rams make the Super Bowl and that run game looks like it did against the Cowboys, they got a shot. Takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback when you can run the football.
I would say your point is probably correct, and I would think that hurts the Chiefs more because the Chiefs have a high-powered offense they're used to scoring. If the Rams were to play them, I would give the Rams an edge because they can control the ball. Take the ball out of the Chiefs' hands, wear them down, and pull it out at the end. And I think for that same reason, that's where I would give the Patriots the edge because Tom Brady can take control of the game himself and control the clock. We've seen it do it countless times. And Bill Belichick will make Goff beat him. He will show enough wrinkles that I don't think their running game would be able to control it. So I honestly think it comes down to matchups for me. The Saints, I think, are the opposite. I think they play right into the Chiefs' hands, and the Chiefs could get Andy Reid his first Super Bowl win if that's what we end up with. But we'll see. I don't want to start giving random Super Bowl predictions, but I think that's what you're going to get. You got contrasting styles, and if you're a football fan, that's what you want to see. You want some high-powered offenses? You got it. You want some strong running game? You got it. Let's see who comes out on top. Anything else you guys want to add? Let's see. Rick gave his picks. Chiefs and Saints, he said. His Super Bowl
Chiefs,
picks.
Saints.
Aren't those both the number ones? When's the last time two number ones have played in a Super Bowl?
That's a great trivia question.
He played in the Super Bowl.
Who?
Andy Reid.
Yeah, he played because T.O. was there. If only Donovan McNabb would have showed up, the Eagles would have had one way earlier. Which I did see. Someone put a graphic out. I think it was Fox Sports. I don't think I shared this. But Tom Brady has, right now, the 6th most Super Bowl wins if you go against all franchises. Or playoff wins, I think it was. So he has like 27 playoff wins or something like that.
Yep.
And he would be 6th all time by himself. And of course, the Patriots are ahead of him. So if you remove the wins that he's had or just take the Patriots out, he would be 5th all time. So crazy. He could pass up the 49ers himself if they were to win the Super Bowl this year and made a deep run next year. Because I think they were like at 31. And I don't know if Fox Graphics had the win from last weekend on it or not. But interesting stat. Yeah. So a lot of hurt because I think teams with over 20 playoff wins, the one team that only had one Super Bowl win was the Eagles. So they would be the team that chokes the most. I think the team that didn't have any Super Bowl wins with the highest wins in the playoffs were the Vikings. They were close to 20, or they might be at 20. So they would be the other playoff chokers.
Hey, since we're talking about the AFC and NFC championship, I got a quick question for you. I never really thought of before. Has Tom Brady ever made the Super Bowl playing the AFC championship on the road? I think every single time he's been in the Super Bowl, he's won the AFC championship in Foxborough. You'd have to fact check me on that, but I can't think off the top of my head any year. I mean, looking back at the first one, that was the year with the tuck rule, right? When he beat the Raiders at New England in the snow. I don't think he's ever made the Super Bowl winning an AFC championship on the road.
Well, there's been so many, I don't remember them all. Matt, do you know?
Well,
there's 8 of them.
Here's a stat for you. How many playoff games did Tom Brady win when Tom Brady was the quarterback?
Matt, you don't like the Tom Brady talk on the show? I know
it's a bit obnoxious. that one outlier Michigan guy just clings to for dear life, like Tom Brady's man purse. I get it.
Matt, I don't know why you're hating on Tom Brady. If we're talking sports, I know Pittsburgh fans probably hate the guy, but if you're looking at the greatest, I wouldn't say we're obnoxious like ESPN is with LeBron James. And unlike LeBron James,
you're about an ant fart away from being
Matt,
where you are with Tom Brady right now.
We're making our predictions. You don't want me to predict Tom Brady wins against the Chiefs? We'll see what happens.
Why would Andy Reid?
I was hoping that I would be able to predict that the Steelers would win with my man Ben Roethlisberger, but they haven't been helping him out. If only the ownership would help Ben Roethlisberger out and give him team players, just think what it could have been. I mean, it only takes how many times did Ben lose to them in the playoffs, Patriots?
Well, that's the funny thing that as you're doing all of your talk, it makes me think. Take the style of play that Tom Brady has, and even to a lesser extent with Roethlisberger, and allow Belichick's defensive mind to take over what Pittsburgh's defense was. And when Cowher leaves, instead of hiring Tomlin, have Belichick come over. How many more Super Bowl wins do you think Pittsburgh has? They might collapse the NFL with the number of consecutive Super Bowls, because it would be. I don't see how teams would be able to compete with that, because what you see is Tom Brady audibling and doing all this stuff on the line. And with Belichick's defense, he just shuts down the other team's offense so well that puts them in a hole where they have to do uncharacteristic things that create more turnovers and gives the offense more opportunities to score points.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ben Roethlisberger could be in that same position as Tom Brady, and he could have as many wins, if not more. Because with the Steelers, even with the Steelers' commanding run game that the Patriots haven't had, do they lose to those Giants teams? Because that was the MO for those Giants teams and why they were able to beat New England. The defense would have been used to that, practicing against them all year. So, I mean, if you're going to flip it, and those might have been towards the Cowher years, because that crossover was close, but I mean, I don't think it's a knock. Well, I honestly think if you're looking at it from a position of, okay, which quarterback can win with the team that is around him no matter what, it's Ben Roethlisberger. How many receivers has he been around? It's almost like Tom Brady level. You're winning at such a high clip with so many different weapons on offense. At some point, you have to get that credit. Unfortunately, without another, like a third Super Bowl win, he's never going to be considered into that upper tier. And I think that's a shame.
But I think he has the potential to do that, just because when you look at the guys that have been around him, and I know we've gone rounds on this before, Brady's won Super Bowls with nobodies around him, but Roethlisberger's taking guys with his Super Bowl appearances. He's taking guys, won with them, and then they've gone on signing these bigger contracts. And what do they do after they leave him? To me, that's more telling. You're an average player in New England. You win because of the system and the culture that's in New England. When you go to Pittsburgh, Ben seems to elevate that level, that they play at a superstar level, and then when they leave, they're not performing at the same level. Well, what changed? The player didn't change. They didn't suddenly just stop running faster, catching balls, or doing those things. It's the guy getting it to him.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm surprised, and maybe it's the Steelers, the way they run the organization, but I'm surprised more big-time free agents don't want to sign with the Steelers for that reason. Or maybe guys that are kind of on the outs because there's an offensive change or something and they didn't fit into that system. Like, I would assume you can get some bargains and really turn it up with Ben Roethlisberger. There's always rumors that they're going to get so-and-so or this player, and it never happens. So, could just be an organizational thing. Anything else you guys want on the NFL?
I'm curious to see next year what Bruce Arians brings to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Knowing that with what he did with Roethlisberger early in his career, strong arm, throws a ball in random spots for no reason, reminds me exactly the way Jameis Winston plays. Super strong arm, just throws it into random spots for no reason. Dirk Cotter couldn't rein it in, but with having that kind of system in Tampa Bay, I'm curious to see what he can get out of Jameis. Jimbo rode him to a national championship.
Yeah, you're right. He's a winner. He could be on that level. I think you have to have that winning mindset, and not a lot of quarterbacks have it. That's why I think Nick Foles is so valuable. I mean, you can come against me for all you want, but I think Jameis Winston could be that guy. The only thing that kind of sways me against it is he's had too many off the field issues, but Ben Roethlisberger did too. If I'm being honest, a lot of Pittsburgh fans forget that or brush that under the rug. So you're onto something, Matt. I don't know. How old is Jameis? He can't be that old.
He's a pup.
Yeah,
27.
Yeah, he doesn't say he's a couple years 26. Away from 30, I think. So we'll see. He still has time to turn it around and take that next step. And I think they just need consistency. How many different coaches has he played for?
At least 2 or 3.
Yeah. Give him something. That's another team where they talk about they have high weapons. Let's see what he can do. I mean, I'm a fan of Arians. I have no ill will towards him. So let's see if they can get it done. They're in the NFC, so I'm not against pulling for them during the regular season.
There's one big problem that you guys are forgetting. The Bucs are in the NFC South. You have the Saints twice a year, the Panthers twice a year, and who's the other one I'm forgetting right now? Saints, Panthers, Falcons. Yeah, Dirty Bird. So, I mean, they have, he's facing Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and Cam Newton. That's pretty tough. Six of his 16 games in his own division. I don't know. I mean,
but that division, too, it also gets you to the point where you're ready for a playoff run. How many of the NFC South teams have made it to the playoffs in recent years, or the Super Bowl in recent years? You had the Falcons, chance for the Saints. Panthers. You have the Panthers. I mean, the Bucs could easily take that step. If you're able to get through it's just like college football. If you're able to get through your division or your conference, and it's a tough conference, you're going to be better prepared for that run. So, I mean, let's see what happens. Rick thinks that Foles will go to the Jags, which I think, that could work. They tore the Steelers apart. Could you imagine what they had if they had an accurate quarterback, semi-accurate?
And a healthy Fournette.
Yeah, that could be dangerous.
Yeah, because that defense is no joke. They have some stud athletes on that defense, especially, was it the one linebacker? Is it Miles Jack? I'm trying to think of.
I don't know. I just want the Steelers to sign Ramsey.
He's a prima donna too.
They should have traded for him. But Jeff, you can have prima donnas on defense.
Yeah, that's true. Deion Sanders is a nice prima donna.
I like that dig at Florida State you threw in there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders.
Don't think that went unnoticed.
Oh, I thought I was going to slip that in there.
Offense is.
We're talking about Super Bowl.
Well, what I meant with the defensive thing is you can't argue that you're not getting the ball. All the defensive coaches has to say, get the ball yourself. Where on offense, the prima donna thing really hurts you is like Brown, I'm not getting enough targets, or Bell, I'm getting too many touches this way. I want to get more, blah, 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 whatever you want to throw out there. So bring in Ramsey. Yeah. I'm high on him. Plus, I would like the Steelers to have some attitude back. I don't think they have it.
So they can actually cover a wide receiver. What a foreign concept.
Yeah.
I think having him would take some pressure off Joe Hayden. I mean, Hayden, he was hyped up. First round pick. Was he close to top 10 if he wasn't in the top 10? And it became clear that he wasn't able to do that. But he's a good number 2. Nice, solid guy. Yeah. You bring in Ramsey. Far too often, Steelers have had Hayden covering number 1s, and it's like, why aren't you getting him help? Yeah. That's my analysis on it. Bring in Ramsey, and then the Steelers could have a shutdown defense, at least in the secondary.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Hayden would easily be the best number 2 corner in the NFL. I'm high on Joe Hayden. I've always liked him. I don't know. I mean, when you're playing for the Browns, it's kind of rough to play the number ones for the Browns every single season, and he's done a decent job in Pittsburgh. The only thing with Joe Hayden, I think he's starting to get old, but I think he'd be a hell of a number 2. So if you could bring Ramsey in, I know there's always rumors, at least the last couple of years. I don't know if it's just my Steeler friends, but what's the Honey Badger situation right now?
I don't know what's going on with him. Is he trying to get out?
I think there's some rumors that he's trying to go to Pittsburgh, but I mean, I could be totally wrong on that. But what would you think if he'd possibly come to the Steelers?
Isn't he fast? I just want speed, Jeff. That's what I've been saying for an entire year. Give me speed in the defense. Hayden, it was clear when Hayden was at the Browns, he didn't have top-level speed. He was getting burnt a lot. You can cover that up by having a number 1 quarterback that can cover. And I'm not saying Hayden can cover, but you just can't whenever you don't have the help. As a number 2, you're right. He might be the best in the league because you can then float the safety to that side. And if he gets burnt, you have help over the top because you really don't want you lose flexibility if you have to float safeties over both corners because they have weaknesses. So have one, you can rotate, do some blitzes, and rotate stuff out if you have that lockdown corner. And if they can't get Ramsey, just bring in speed. The Jaguars ran all over us because we didn't have speed. And that's what I really want them to get. And I don't think they got it in the draft last year. And with Shazier, I think Shazier masked a lot of that because he was a fast linebacker, and those are rare.
Oh, he was super athletic too. He was like probably the only linebacker in the league that had the ability to cover Gronk, honestly, just with his size and athleticism. Or no, not necessarily his size, but his athleticism and speed.
Yeah, I think that's what they need to do. Matt, what do you think?
I agree. I was daydreaming there for a minute.
All right, I got 2 last topics I want to hit quick before we end the show. DraftKings, which kind of just want to do a PSA. They're like the daily fantasy sports. Now that gambling's kind of legal, and we talk about it on the show sometimes, could be why our show's been flagged as controversial. They let you do betting online. So they had a tournament for the weekend's games where there were 4 games. You had to pay in $10,000, and they were trying to use it to promote their show. But on Sunday, I think it was the Sunday games, if the person that was the leader, he had $300,000 after what was the first game, the Patriots win. He had $300,000. He had made his $10,000 into $300,000. I don't know how many bets he made. I think it was only a weekend tournament. They locked his funds and didn't give them to him before the start of the Sunday night game. So we've talked about him on the show before that they've been caught in some scams, having bots throw up bets to take away winnings. And a lot of people were saying, this isn't such a big deal, but because he could still get his winnings, he still got his $300,000. But we don't know how many people were affected and if it was all the top earners. Because let's say he makes like an even bet with that $300,000, that turns into $600,000. Plus, if he's the top leader, he also gets the $1 million prize. So that cost him potentially, $1.3 million that he could have had. And he wasn't the only one affected. So until gambling is like 100% legal, just be very careful if you're out with these sites because there's not that much oversight. And I hate seeing things like this where they're using it to drum up publicity and then they just explained it with a glitch. So some other guy won the $1 million because he ended up with having the most money in his account. But they locked a bunch of people from making bets. And let's say that guy, he had $300,000 on the line that he could have made. They only have to lock 10 guys. That's 2 million or so. And that's a low number. I don't know how many people bought into this tournament, but that's a crazy thing to keep an eye on. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I wanted to talk about it on the show just because we talk about gambling sometimes and it's not fully legal. And that's a New York thing. And they've already been in court in New York for doing something with payouts. So you're better off just going to Vegas right now until it's normal. Then the second thing.
Or the Rivers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, true.
They got the sports book now. It's 100% legal. Go in, place your bets.
You're 100% right, Jeff. go do it in person. And I work on the internet. I'm a tech guy. You can't trust companies when they don't have oversight. Let's say you're from out of state. I don't know if this guy was from New York. The guy who placed the bet, this got some publicity because it was what's the guy's? It was he did the stats. He was a big stats guy. He did the Massey. Is it Peabody? I could be wrong. It started with the P. He was the second half of the Massey ratings. So this is a big time guy throwing down big time money, and I don't think it was an accident. Like, they knew the guy had his favor, and in Las Vegas, you cannot hold money, especially if it's only like if it's under like a million or 2 million or something like that is the law. You have to pay it. If it's over that amount, you can go through security checks, but you have like an hour to pay it out if it's more than a couple million. So in New York, they don't have that because it's brand new. This guy gets screwed, but because of his name, he's able to get some publicity to it. And I don't know. I haven't heard anything if DraftKings offered him the prize money. I'm sure they made a ton more on advertising from that event. But it sucks seeing the NFL get in bed with companies they didn't vet. I did have one other controversy. We talked about the Michigan State gymnastics thing before it was covered in mainstream. Well, of course, my Michigan Wolverines, they're getting headlines now because they hired one of the coaches that knew of the abuse for their women's gymnastics team. And I think she actually testified in court. Obviously, she didn't end up in jail. But it's a sad thing seeing that, and I don't know if the whole story's come out. They said that they offered her as a consultant. She's been fired since the media backlash, I think, over the weekend. The story was still trending today. But for a school to hire someone in controversy, I just hate to see that as my Michigan Wolverines. And I don't want to be a hypocrite not bringing it up since we talked about the Michigan State thing. And this is directly tied to it. If she knew, and this is the same thing that Tennessee happened with Greg Schiano, where they were against his hire because he may have knew of the Jerry Sandusky things and didn't do anything. Michigan's no better actually hiring someone that testified in court that she knew and she reported it, but I guess she didn't follow up is what the official testimony is. So, a very sad day, but I wanted to make sure that we covered because that's a big thing. And I honestly think it's the second scandal. I saw the other one, but it kind of got brushed under the rug. I believe that there was some inappropriate relations between one of the coaches and one of the girls. And I think that coach was fired. And I don't think that got mainstream media coverage either. And I was trying to dig into the scandal a little bit more. I think it happened in October, so we missed it. But not a good look by the women's gymnastics team for the University of Michigan. So that was basically my final bell, but I wanted to put it on the docket so that I didn't forget to hit on it since it's trending this week. So do you guys got anything else? We'll start with you, Matt.
I did. I just lost it. I had something I wanted to bring. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just think finish off the show for the day. I brought up that question: has Tom Brady ever won an AFC Championship on the road? I don't think he has. We'll have to look into that if he has or not. But I don't think he's going to do it this weekend in Arrowhead, one of the toughest stadiums in the country to play at. Don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going with the Chiefs and I'm going with the Rams this weekend.
All right, Matt, anything else before we end it?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys hit on this before I came on, but I want to just give a tip of the cap to Clemson for making an appearance at the White House and eating all that fast food.
That was what we were going to talk about. That was supposed to be my final bell after the show. Did you guys see, there was a ridiculous article where the Washington Post tried to fact check how many burgers that were bought by Donald Trump. They had a diagram and they tried to count.
Yeah.
It was the most ridiculous thing. How about you celebrate the team? And the guy in the article clearly states that he's an Ohio State Buckeye alum, or Ohio State alum, a Buckeye fan. And he makes a quip that the Clemson Tigers didn't beat Ohio State this year to earn that national championship. And then he goes on to talk about the fast food choices at the event. How about you cover the team and their celebration? So I thought it was a fun event. I thought it looked funny. And I think Trevor Lawrence, he said he hopefully he's back next year. He'd love to do it again. And I will say this, and I've tried to look into him. He has such a smooth throwing motion that when he comes out, there will be multiple teams battling for that number 1 pick. Write that down.
Yep.
He might be better.
Yep.
He's smoother than Andrew Luck. I know a lot of people say Andrew Luck was like a can't-miss prospect. This kid was a true freshman, just slaughtered Alabama and their great defense, picked them apart. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think he still has to play, 2 more years?
Yep.
So in 2 years, watch, there'll be like 4 undefeated or 4 teams that don't win a game. As they battle up, they'll do like a coin flip or something. I don't know how they decide to pick.
He's gonna be the front runner for the Heisman next year, being a freshman.
To be honest, that would be the only year I'd be happy to see the Steelers go without a win. Is if they landed Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I'm high on that kid. Anything else you guys want to add?
I think you covered it all.
Yeah,
hey, hopefully Trevor Lawrence. Oh, sorry, Matt. Good.
Also, for many people, teams that have boycotted going to the White House, I think if you ever accomplish something to warrant an official visit to the White House, why would you pass on it? I tip my cap that they went, and regardless of what the politics were, they went. They ate a free meal and got to hang out the president. I think that's a good thing.
I think it's something that if you don't go, you could always regret. Sort of like if, let's say, Pittsburgh Pirates, if they, in the middle of a losing season, they invite us to come out and throw like the first pitch, and you were like, nah, I don't like the ownership. Like, it's something you would just regret. So I look at it from that way.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity, take it. If you want to make a stand, great. That's your choice. That's what's great about America. So we'll end it on that. Thanks for listening. Follow us, S-Bound Sports. Like I said, I'm going to try to tweet the stuff out before the show. Get a little bit more action. I've been slacking, so that's on me. And we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.